Welcome back to Snetterton for the final race of the weekend in the GB3 Championship. It's the reverse grid race. We'll talk about the fallout from race 2 that happened a little bit earlier in just a second. But Piers, just remind people who are watching what the reverse grid race is all about.
It's a reverse grid race, so it's actually slightly longer than the previous 2 races, 25 minutes in GB3, so a bit of extra time for the drivers to make as many positions as possible, and that is the aim of the game. A full reverse grid of all the drivers that qualified within 103%, so the fastest drivers at the back, the drivers that were slower in qualifying at the front, it brings the field together and you get an extra point for every position gained.
Yeah, absolutely huge for those drivers to make up the points if they've had a bad weekend. Callum Voisin is a driver that had a very, very bad weekend. He was the championship leader a little bit earlier on. Had an incident, as you'll see in the highlights in just a second. And while the highlights roll, Piers is going to go and find him.
Highlights from round 11 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. A couple of issues on the start for the likes of Costa de Paris, but James Headley once again with a fantastic start to get his way up the order. But at the front, it was Callum Voisin defending from Tomek Kuharczyk, who was got to the outside going through the first corner, was unable to make his move around the outside there, but was definitely on the attack. The number 7 looking down the inside of the 35, Callum Voisin feeling the pressure, a big lock-up as well from Alex Dunn, and we were wondering if there were going to be any issues for him through the race. Thankfully, there were not, as his charge onto the back of Noah Ping was beginning. For the front though, Callum Voisin was just about able to hang on to the race lead, but then this move from Kuharczyk down the inside, making contact with Callum Voisin, and it would be a retirement from the race for the championship leader. The rear right was pulled off the car. Kuharczyk would drop back a few positions and was able to carry on. The race lead though was handed over to Noah Ping, who'd come through the final corner to restart the race and was able to hang on from Alex Dunn. It was a great restart from him, as there was a dive down the inside from Mackenzie Cresswell, a mistake from Joseph Lowe out wide into the marbles and off the circuit, and he would drop down the order. The top 2 in the championship were unable to score points. Noah Ping certainly would. Alex Dunn finishing in second and taking over the top of the standings, with Kuharczyk provisionally in third. So we'll take a look at provisional standings then. Alex Dunn to the top of the standings on 228 points. Callum Voisin and Joseph Lowe didn't score in that race. They're still separated by 5 points and now in second and third. James Headley up to 4th position after a solid weekend for him. Kuharczyk provisionally in 5th position on 194 points, as we get to Mackenzie Cresswell, Matthew Rees, John Bennett, Jared Olberski and Noah Ping after a fantastic victory inside the top 10 of the standings. Costa de Paris in 11th position with Shin, then Christodoulou, Morales and Shea. Once again, still trying to find the great speed that he had back in Spa, but still in 15th. Max Esterson, a difficult weekend for him on the same points in 6th position. Ayota Iwasaki, Edward Pearson, Oliver Stewart and Suta Arau rounding out the top 20. The final drivers being Zach Taylor, Lucas Styko, Arthur Rojon and Daniel Mavliatov in 24th.
So that's the highlights from race 2 of the weekend. And one of the big talking points was, of course, the incident at the front of the field between our man Callum Voisin here and Tomek Kuharczyk. Callum, very disappointed straight off the bat, of course. You were put out of the race. That's really not ideal in terms of the championship for you.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, as you said, not great for the championship. It's a shame. I think we pretty much perfectly executed everything we needed to do. Got a pretty good start, held the leads, was in the leads, and yeah, I was controlling it quite nicely. Unfortunately, yeah, just an impatient driver behind me. So, yeah.
Let's talk about that incident a little bit. You mentioned just off camera a moment ago that he tried 2 or 3 times. You couldn't feel like you could have done much more to avoid that incident?
Not really. I mean, you know, I gave him as much space as I needed to, as I could have really. I think on the video it's pretty clear that, you know, in the end we're kind of right to the curb almost, kind of on the exit. So yeah, look, it's a shame, but you know, the positive is that, you know, we were leading, we were fast. He was very fast behind me, but yeah, we were holding it quite nicely, and yeah, look, we were in the lead, and I was on course for my first win of the year. But,
I know.
Anyway.
We were just saying that, of course, you've had so many podiums, 6 this season already up before that race. It would have been your 7th podium and first win of this year. Of course, you took a few wins last season. Let's look ahead now, look at the positives. It's great that you're able to take the positives from the race, even though it's disappointing for you. You were the 2 fastest cars on circuit, you and Tomek at the front of the field. That must give you good confidence in the reverse grid later on today. And have you saved any tyres for that?
Well, yeah, I'm not too sure what my tyres will be like, because I presume they're a little bit flat spotted, but you know, whatever it is, I'm sure we'll be fast. I'll make sure I get round cleanly compared to the other guy, but no, I mean, you know, we'll try and make up as many spots. You know, half of this race is just staying out of trouble, really. That's the game. So Yeah, look, it's a shame, but positives are that we were fast and, well, we can win this. So, you know, championship's not all lost. We've got 4 rounds to bring it back, and yeah, we've got this.
Absolutely, a long way to go. I'm glad to see that you're still confident pushing onwards. You mentioned a moment ago just then, of course, you've got good pace, you're to try and stay out of trouble. I even mentioned to James Headley that pretty much he's managed to gain places, and John Bennett just gaining places through not getting in incidents. We've seen even at difficult circuits to overtake, like Brands GP last year, you managed to come through. Snetterton, equally difficult to get through if no one makes a mistake. Still reckon you can make some places though?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I'm a different driver compared to last year. You know, I'm not kind of got that win it or bin it mentality, but at the same time, I've still got the same, you know, aggression when it comes to the reverse grid races. So, you know, yeah, watch for the moves really.
Fight and talk, I love to hear it. Wait, let's see how you get on in that one.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Piers. And we've just heard now, this might not be news to Callum Voisin's ears, but Timek Kaharchik in the Douglas Motorsports car has been disqualified for that coming together with the road and Carling car of Callum Voisin, which means that James Headley in the Arden VRD car, the guy that won the first race of the weekend yesterday, he's been promoted to 3rd place, so he'll get that trophy. Hopefully we'll catch up with him in a little while before this reverse grid race. Next up, let's just take a quick look at the track here at Snetterton.
The Snetterton circuit in Norfolk has been a test for all drivers in Great Britain over the last 70 or so years. Opened in 1951, first raced in 1953. It's gone through variations over that time, including the current layout that we have, the Snetterton 300, which was opened in 2011, making that inner section where you've got the likes of Agostini and Hamilton and Oggies. It's a very difficult circuit, one that certainly from an elevation standpoint doesn't look too testing, but from a race circuit standpoint certainly is so. 2.9 miles around, just a shy under 3 miles, and you can see very little elevation, but that means nothing on this circuit. It is tricky, it is testing, it has some brutal corners, the likes of Agostini, the likes of Brundle into Nelson, Coram into Murray's. That final section is what creates this circuit to be such a test and such a great overtaking circuit.
Well, that's a look at the track here at Snetterton, and a guy that knows it pretty well is James Headley with Arden VRD, because, I mean, you won that first race and now you've been upgraded to P3 after, as we kind of imagined, Timek Kaharchik was moved out of that spot. You know, you've probably not got the trophy yet, but, you know, successful weekend with 2 trophies so far.
Yeah, I haven't got the second one yet, but yeah, really good weekend, and especially for the team as well, you know, 3 podiums in 2 races, 2 of them are wins, and yeah, it's absolutely brilliant news. It's just what the team deserves. So.
And it's obviously, you know, been a good time for the team with Noah as well. We chatted to your sponsor yesterday, big character, Mark Perry, over from Vancouver, Canada. And I mean, you know, we talked at the beginning of the season about the uncertainty with young drivers and having to find people to support them throughout the season. And it must be great to not only, you know, have him here, but also for him to have got on board and really got behind you, because he seems like he's your biggest fan.
Yeah, you know, the best thing is all my sponsors are so enthusiastic and passionate, and Mark's great, he's a good character, and you know, all my sponsors are great, and I really appreciate them. I wouldn't be here without them, and I need more, so yeah, but yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely, as you guys say, not doing myself any harms, yeah, so yeah, we'll see what we can do for the rest of the season, and yeah.
Excellent, let's get a bit loud around me, so I wish you the best of luck in this reverse grid race, James. And before we get to the race, Piers Pryor's doing something a little bit different.
We're down at turn 3, Palmer's now, and it's quite a quick corner through here, barely even a break in most of the cars, a lot of speed in, but the exit is crucial. 1, because you need to get a good exit towards Agostini, but 2, this thing here. What is this, Max?
So this here is a sensor. So when we talk about track limits and people getting pulled up on track limits, this is what the drivers are hitting to basically trigger those track limits and get penalties. Snetterton is actually quite a difficult circuit for that in terms of going over the track limits, just because of the nature of the circuit.
Yeah.
As they come up through this corner, you want to be right on this red and white, but actually if you drop off of it, you'll actually get pulled off onto this like
grass
grating, and it just pulls you off the circuit to where you join. So you'll actually lose a lot of time. from running on this. You know, the cars are so low to the ground that it just skates along the plank as you go. So you really don't want to be dropping off here for the reason of damaging the car, slowing your time, and then on top of that, you're going to get a warning.
Yeah, of course, because whenever a driver or car goes over this, it's basically like a shutter button on a camera, and just behind the camera, you can't see it because it's far away in the distance, but there's a camera that takes a picture of your car off the circuit, so you can't even argue. And there's a few of these around the circuit. There's one at turn 1, I think there's one on the exit of Agostini, there's one on the exit of Williams, and I think the last corner as well. So that's what the drivers are going to have to be looking out for.
Yeah, they really do.
Well, thank you to Piers and Max Maserati there for talking us to another part of the track. Joseph Lokes with me from JHR Developments. Have you had an issue with track limits here as they were just explaining that?
Apart from the last lap, no. Obviously these cars they're all right over the curbs, but you can't really gain any time from them, so you just stay away from them. The sensors are all in places that you don't gain time anyway, so yeah, you just don't really need to exceed track limits or anything.
Yeah, let's talk about that last race then, because I mean, just talk us through what happened.
Well, it was an okay race for me, to be fair. You know, start was okay. It wasn't brilliant, but it was enough to get a position off the line. Got a little bit boxed in on the first lap, then lost the position I'd gained. But it wasn't that bad. Then I did a really good move lap 2 on Costa. Then obviously the incident at the front, which I, if I'm honest, was quite happy to see. Obviously, it's a shame for Callum, and if I was him, it would have been horrible. But you know, for me, it's quite a good thing to see him off. But then, you know, I just made a very silly mistake, if I'm honest. You know, I let Mackenzie go up my inside into turn 1 on the last lap, and I just left him too much room, pretty much. Ended up on the marbles and then had no grip from then on. So, very disappointed in myself. It's a mistake that I wouldn't normally make, and I'm not really sure why I did. But you know, at the end of the day, I made that mistake, and I've got to make sure I don't do it again. And that's the main thing. Obviously, I lost a lot of points then. We'd have been leading the championship if it weren't for that, and we're quite far away now. But you know, it's one of those. You've got to take it on the chin and just learn from it and make sure it don't happen again.
When that kind of thing happens, obviously you have the reverse grid race coming up in a short while. How do you make sure that you don't try and overcompensate? Because obviously you want to get the best result to end the weekend on a high.
Yeah, obviously, at the end of the day, each race is different, so I can't really take what you know, the anger and stuff that I have after that race. I can't take that into the next race and, you know, be firing people off and stuff, because that's not obviously how you win championships. So, you know, I'm in a very good position at the moment. I've got a very good team around me, and I've got some very good teammates as well, and we're all working together, pushing ourselves forward. And I think, you know, as long as I take each race as it is, I know I can win races. I've already done it this year, and I'm sure I will again. It's just, unfortunately, we've had a couple of maybe not so strong rounds, and we need to get on top of it. You know, I've got to be at the front. I've got to be picking up podiums and wins, and you know, at this point of the season, I'm not happy with that, and I need to figure out why that is. We've got a good idea, but we've got to make sure that it's not happening any longer.
I'm sure I don't need to tell you this because you probably don't want to hear it, but had you stayed where you were, if things had ended the same, I think you would have had a 1-point lead in the championship, which is even more of a shame. Let's talk quickly about the reverse grid race. What are your hopes for that race? How do you think you can attack it?
It's going to be hard. I don't actually know what position I am. I've not actually looked, but obviously I'll be quite far down with it being reverse grid. But, you know, I've had some good reverse grid races in this championship already, and I don't see any reason why I wouldn't this time. So I'll give it my all. I'll be making some big moves. I got a bit of practice in race 2 with a couple of dive bombs and stuff, so I'll be going aggressive. I'll be trying to make some moves, but at the end of the day I have to finish races, and that's what I didn't do last race, and it's gonna really cost me if I'm not finishing races from now on. So I've got to make sure I'm picking up points every race, just maximising things as much as I can, really, and I'm sure we'll be all right after the weekend.
Okay, well look, we wish you the best of luck. For the last time, actually, let's take a look around this track that you'll be racing at in the reverse grid race in just a second. We're riding on board with Joseph Loke in the JHR Developments car, and Piers Pryor will talk you through a lap here at Snetterton.
Let's ride on board a lap of the Snetterton 300 circuit with our pole sitter for race 1, Matthew Rees. A long run down to turn 1, which is Rich is almost flat out through turn 1. Nipped the first apex, missed the second. The speed through here is incredible this year with these new cars. And then we brake hard down into the Wilson hairpin. Some differing lines from different drivers here. Some go out wide and cut back, some go in early. Rees decided to go early this time. Then turn 3 of Palmer's. It's a high apex speed corner here, banked and raises on the exit, but watch out for track limits as there is a sensor there. slight kink down towards Agostini, the second overtaking opportunity on the lap. Again, a long apex hairpin, so missed the first part, grabbed the second. Traction is important on the way out. Now next we have Hamilton as a medium speed corner, very narrow, very tricky to get right, a little bit of movement through the apex, watch the track limits on the exit, and then the bumpy braking of Oggies, which goes on and on and on, bumpy on the exit as well, so traction is tricky. Now potentially the most important corner on the circuit, Williams, which heads out onto the long Bentley straight, over half a mile of flat out running now to pick out your braking point for Brundle and Nelson under the bridge. We're completely flat out over 140 miles an hour, braking very, very late, get into the apex early for Brundle to open up the entry of Nelson. Again, traction is important on the exit. A car gets out our way on the inside as we go flat out down the undulation, down and up through the bomb hole. The car will bottom out through there. Only 2 corners to go, starting with Coram, completely flat out, high G-force through here, very hard on the neck, and then braking, try and keep it nice and tidy for the exit of Murray's, and that is a lap on board our pole sitter for the Snetterton 300 circuit, over 105 miles an hour average speed. We've made our way down here to the Fortec awning, and we often see the cars on circuit and what goes on track, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I've managed to grab Russell, chief engineer here at Fortec. Now Russell, as an engineer, what's your primary role? What's you're in charge of?
Well, obviously I'm in charge of making sure the car is at its optimum performance for the driver, get the car as fast as possible, tune the car to the circuit and a little bit to the driver as well.
Brilliant, and of course we can see a lot of work going on behind the scenes at the moment, 2 or 3 guys, and what is it, 2 or 3 mechanics to a car generally?
Maybe 1 and then a helper,
yeah.
like a trainee who would then progress to be a full-time mechanic the following year or something like that.
Yeah, so a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. Let's head backwards through the garage, because a lot of people, after you Russell, a lot of people don't realise that maybe how much work goes on behind the scenes, but of course we've got all the equipment around the back here. If we head through to the back of the awning, we've got a little bit of a hospitality area over here, and I've noticed that there's basically most of the rear end of an engine, or most of the rear end of a car over there. What's that here for?
So basically we've got 4 cars, but we always bring a spare gearbox. So if there's a big shunt, we can, get that back on track quicker than fixing what has just been crashed, basically.
Yeah, a lot of planning goes in behind the scenes, and I can see the tyres lined up around the back there as well. With those tyres, there's a lot that goes into the tyres, and it's a big part of the performance, isn't it?
Yeah, it was crucial. It's probably the biggest performance gain, really, getting the pressure temperature right of the tyre. So they kept a nice even temperature out there, so we can pressure them properly.
Brilliant. And then there's not done here. We've got the big transporter behind us. Russell, come on through. Why don't you talk us through the transporter? So as you head in to the right-hand side, it looks pretty. It's a lot going on in here, but it's a very crucial part and a bit of a hub for the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have a bit of a food area here, which is currently a mess. Sorry about that. And then the drivers have the back end of the truck. They tend to have a little section for themselves, and they can chill out there with their drinks and their performance guys and stuff.
Performance guys and stuff. So this is all kind of wherever all the drivers get ready. Russell, talk us through what goes on in here.
So basically this is our debrief room. It's normally about 16 degrees because I like it really cold and it keeps loads of people out. So I have all the engineers working with the drivers, driver coach, obviously looking at video, engineers looking at data, and then we have a little engineering meeting and see how we can make them go better, basically.
And this is kind of the hub, the brains, and where the lap time comes from, I suppose.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, Russell, thank you so much for your time. Really good to see behind the scenes, and hopefully you guys have a good rest of the weekend. I know you've had a couple of issues so far, but it's going to be a good weekend, hopefully.
Piers, did they let you go in that trailer, or did you just barge your way in?
I just walk in anywhere I want, mate. You know that.
Like, I did this in 2020. I should belong here. Good. We can see the car of Daniel Mavlatov here, the Hillspeed car, on pole position, in a great position. A very striking car. Actually, one of those cars that is very, very easy to see out on the track with its black with very fluorescent yellow there. Rojon behind him. Also Staiko, the Brazilian driver. We kind of hoped for maybe a little bit more from him when the season started. I was chatting with a couple of Brazilian drivers in Sao Paulo, and they were saying, "Oh, you've got this Brazilian kid coming over. He's very, very fast," and hasn't quite done what to do so far, I wouldn't say.
Yes, he's shown flashes of good pace, but hasn't been able to string a whole weekend together as yet. But of course, as we know, the GB3 Championship is so competitive that it's quite hard. Well, it takes a while to get into the swing of things, and of course, he hasn't got the most experience in the UK, but you know, I'm sure he'll find it. We saw at Alton Park he had pretty good pace. His teammate, of course, Kuharczyk, has been right up there at the front, and he'll be learning off him the whole while. And you know, a lot of these drivers will come in and do a year of learning and then hit the ground running the second year.
Well, yeah, and behind in the red and white car, number 20, number 20, Jared Waberski. He's done a year of learning in the GB4 Championship, and is one of the drivers that's progressed up to the GB3 Championship.
Yeah,
I think he's in a great position here, and I know you agree.
Yeah, definitely. He's, especially this weekend, he's been struggling with the car in terms of outright pace, and he says there's a bit of an underlying issue with the car that the team are hopefully going to be able to sort before the next round, but he's just making the best of it. And in every race so far, he's gained 3, 4, 5 positions at the start, and if he gains 3 at the start of this one, he'll be in the lead. So he's definitely a pick for a strong result and a podium, maybe even more in this one for me.
Yeah, we talk about Father's Day as well. Garth Waberski, his dad, who's been here from the very, very start. If you don't know the story, you know, literally came back and was just decided to do the GB4 Championship on a whim. You know, just came over and went, yeah, this looks great, let's do it. And you know, I want to say long suffering, because I know Garth absolutely loves it, but you know, big shout out to all the racing dads, because there's a lot of racing dads and also racing mums around as it's Father's Day. We've got to talk about Sean Rashid. He's just behind Jared Waberski in the number 32 blue Douglas Motorsports car. Yep. Come over from the States. He actually had a car shipped out to the States so he could get a bit of practice in before the season starts. Be good to see a good performance from him. We've just been chatting to, actually, he's got his own personal photographer here, and you know, we heard from Sam, who does some of the social media for some of the other drivers. Great to see that he's got a photographer with the longest lens I've seen in the paddock, so she's going to get some great shots of him, hopefully doing well in this race. Piers, I will let you go and join Lewis McGlade. We can see the cars going out of the assembly area here. Iwasaki, Gerard Shea behind him there, Stewart, John Bennett as well. John Bennett will be hoping for a good result, hopefully, for him. Michael Shin, of course, as well. Zach Taylor, another driver returning from last year. Mackenzie Creswell behind him. Ever striking Red Bull car. Suter Arau as well. That's one to look out for. It's just the last few cars come out here. Number 84, just see coming out here. Joseph Loke, who we heard from a little bit earlier. He'll want a good result. But let's, for the final time in the GB3 Championship here at Snetterton, go racing.
What a weekend it has been so far. We've had 3 fantastic races, or 2 fantastic races. We're on the 3rd of those, and we've had 3 championship leaders. Of course, all started out with Joseph Loke coming into the weekend as championship leader. Callum Voisin took it over, but after issues in the previous race, Alex Dunn is now at the top of the standings. You can see in the bottom left as well, the temperatures come up. We were talking about it maybe being 24, 25 degrees. It is 26 degrees. Whilst the threat of rain still looms, it might be a light sprinkle, if anything else. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think we're even getting that. There's a couple of clouds, more of a bit of you know, mist in some of the areas. It's nothing crazy. It is perfect conditions for racing. If anything, a little bit hot for some of the drivers. The track temperature's up. It slips and slides its way around, particularly through the first corner of Riches to that final complex in Coram into Murray's as well. Now, obviously, Mavlyatov will be the driver starting from pole position, and remember that the reverse grid pole that he had at Alton Park, he did take the victory. That was in really awful conditions as he was trying to hang on to that race lead, but of course a few safety cars here and there were able to assist him through that, and through that he didn't put a foot wrong, and Mavlyatov taking that victory. He'll be starting from pole position alongside Arthur Rojon. Lucas Styko will be starting from 3rd position with Jared Waberski in 4th. Sean Rashid will start from 5th position, and then Edward Pearson, who's having a bit of a turnaround weekend, in 6th. David Morales in 7th. Of course, keep an eye on him in that JHR Developments car. We know they are quick around here. Ayota Iwasaki in 8th position, Gerard Shea in 9th, and then Oliver Stewart in 10th. Jon Jon Bennett just outside the top 10 with 11th position. He's had a very underrated weekend. It's kind of just been not really much of what we would expect from Jon Bennett. He's struggled in qualifying and not really had the pace in the race either. Michael Shin in 12th, Zach Taylor in 13th position with Mackenzie Cresswell in 14th, Suter Arau in 15th, and then we get Costa Taparis in 16th position, Nico Christodoulou in 17th, Joseph Loke, who came into it as the championship leader, who was going to retake over the championship lead after a mistake, or before a mistake rather, in the previous race, will start from 18th position. James Headley, a race winner this weekend, in 19th. Then we get Noah Ping in 20th, Alex Dunn in 21st, Tomek Kuharczyk in 22nd after a disqualification in the previous race. We'll talk about that in a moment because he's starting alongside Callum Voisin, the driver who he was involved in the incident with, in 23rd. Then Matthew Rees and Max Esterson rounding out the grid. Of course, Max Esterson struggled in qualifying, didn't get a lap onto the board, certainly not a representative one in qualifying, and that's why he started at the back of the field for all three of the races that we've had this weekend. Well, we've said before, when it comes to these reverse grid races, there have been a couple of changes versus the previous couple of previous year, certainly previous couple of years, where this third and final race, it is a reverse grid race. The way this has worked is come from qualifying. Everyone's fastest times from qualifying has been reversed. So if you qualified 24th and what would effectively be the final car inside the 103% rule, then you get moved to first. 23rd goes to second, 22nd goes to third, and so on. The entire grid reversed, and also the race length is increased. It's normally a 12-lap race or 20 minutes, whichever one comes first. At the moment, it is 14 laps or 25 minutes, whichever one comes first. Now, we do take these to time fairly frequently, courtesy of the odd safety car here and there. Will we get one today? Again, in the commentary booth for the final time this weekend, it's myself, Lewis McGlade. It's Piers Pryor alongside, who's again made that journey from the assembly area into the commentary booth. How is the tension down there? Is it okay? Is it fairly settled, or is there a little bit of beef between Tomek Kuharczyk and Callum Voisin?
Everyone was very much in the zone as far as I could see, and everyone's ready and pretty relaxed, actually. I think the grid generally this year, we've got a grid of pretty relaxed drivers, but there was also some that were very much in the zone, knowing that this reverse grid is their best opportunity for a top 3, top 5, or even a win. And I'm looking at Jared Woberski for a win here. He's had some great first laps. He's had some good starts. I hope I'm not jinxing him. I really hope that he has a good result, because I know he's been struggling this weekend and is not where he believes he should be.
He's inside the top 10 of the championship. Of course, the last reverse grid race that we had at Spa, he moved forward 6 positions to take third place. I think a podium surely is on the cards.
Sorry, who was that again?
Woberski.
Yeah, Woberski. Oh, a podium, I think, is almost inevitable. 4th place. He's probably the fastest driver, I reckon, of those front 4 or 5 people. Not demonstrated by his pace in qualifying, but we know how well he can race and how confident he is, especially having seen it in GB4 last year.
Well, here we go then. The 25 cars line up, and we were saying it in the GB4 Championship. We're going to say it here in GB3 as well. Once we're done here with round 12, we are halfway through the 2023 season of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Daniel Mavliatov will start from pole position. Arthur Rojon alongside. The second board is held out. The lights will come on, and we're going to get underway for the final time here at Snetterton. 14 laps onto the board, and there's a staller from Michael Shin in the background. It is not Alex Dunn. Don't worry about it. Lucas Styko, though, in that number 11 car, getting to the left-hand side, getting to the inside of Arthur Rojon, heading into the first corner as Jon Bennett muscles his way around the outside of Gerard Shea in that number 27 Roden Carlin. A bit of a lock-up there from Daniel Mavliatov, which could cost him the race lead on the exit of the Wilson hairpin. He runs wide but brings it back in. Plenty of 2 wide. It was Gerard Shea in that white car running out wide, as I think we've got Woberski defending from his teammate Pearson.
Yeah, Pearson was looking up the inside of Woberski and unfortunately couldn't get the move done around the outside, but we now have a move on Rojon for the lead. Mavliatov going defensive. Rojon's looking to the outside. Jared Woberski didn't quite have the start that I was expecting, and look who's right there, Lucas Styko.
Yeah, certainly so. And again, all of the positions they make up from their starting position, they gain points for. It's really important for those lower down in the race, so those higher up in the championship, to make some moves. A bit of a lock up there for Arthur Rojon heading into Oggies. So easy to do, to lock that front right as the circuit kind of comes away from you, turning through the corner. It can be very difficult.
Yeah, that was, it looked like Callum Voisin was making a move up the inside of the number 3, which I believe is Noah Ping. So a position gain for not Matthew Rees. A position gain for Voisin there on the first sector.
Yeah, look at this as well. The number 15 of Ayota Iwasaki was looking to the inside of Pearson into the Brundle-Nelson complex. Anyone side by side through here? A little bit of a move there from Loke on Reese coming through in the JHR Developments car. Who is that off the rear end of the field, though? Someone is right at the back.
Yeah, someone's dropped back a long way.
I think it's one of the elite cars.
I can't see quite now at this moment in the race, but we've got Voisin and Reese are still side pretty much nose to tail, so that's going to continue on. That is...
It's John Bennett.
Oh, John Bennett had a great start as well, and front wing, heavy front wing damage. We didn't see exactly where that was. Maybe that was the puff of smoke we saw going into Brundle and Nelson, but Mavliatov at the lead of the race, not followed followed very closely by Artur Rojon in second place.
Mackenzie Cresswell making a move down the inside, going through the first corner as Mavliatov once again defends for the race lead. That's Ayota Iwasaki sending one on Pearson. He's got to the inside in that number 15 Elite Motorsports car, but Pearson is able to hang on in his Vortec. You can tell it's his one. It's the one with the blue highlights. Thankfully, all the Vortecs are separated slightly differently. We did say as well, David Morales in that JHR Developments car. We know JHR Developments are fast this season, and to be fair, David Morales is in a decent position. He's got to defend, though, from the Roden Carlin of Costa to Paris. Look at all this chaos in all of the middle of all of this. The number 17 of Oliver Stewart having to deal with the pressure. I think it's James Headley's got round the outside.
Paris going wide again at the exit of Agostini, so there's still more battling as that's the number 7 and the number 4 going around the outside. No, number 7.
It's number 2. It is Krista Dulu getting around the outside of the 17th. There's John Bennett back out into the race.
A very speedy front wing change from the Roden Carlin team. However, I don't think John Bennett's going to be able to make any more positions unless there is another a safety car as there was in race number 1 this weekend.
Yeah, certainly.
Certainly
so, yes. Let's see what Gerard Shea, like I say, he's had a decent weekend on pace, but unfortunately has dropped right the way back down. We did see him going wide, going into the hairpin. That there is the number 4 of James Headley, having a bit of a fight with Callum Voisin. Has there been issues as well for the number 13 of Sean Rashid? I don't think so. Just having a little bit he didn't look particularly fast there when we were looking. Look at that, that's Kuharczyk down the inside of Costa to Paris. That's a brilliant move.
Headley's gone backwards a little bit. At the start of this lap, Headley was up in 14th place. He's now fighting with Voisin and Ping down in 18th. So he's had an issue at the start of the lap that we saw, that we didn't see on the screen, I don't think.
Yeah, there we go. Costas Paris now under pressure, potentially from Max Esterson, as they're racing their way back towards turn 1. Still Mavliatov leads, Roujon, then Staiko, Waberski still in 4th position with Pearson behind, then Iwasaki, Morales, Cresswell, Rashid and Arau. It is Cresswell with the fastest lap of the race, running in that 8th position. You can see the defensive line that was being taken ever so slightly there from Pearson coming up towards the Palmer turn as they head their way through. It's all single file at the moment, and I think Mavliatov's dealt with the early storm around him quite well. He's held off Rojon through the important part of the race, and now things start to calm down as Morales continues his defence of Mackenzie Cresswell, the fastest car on the circuit at the moment.
Yeah, I've just been looking down at the back of the field to see who of those front groups who were fast in qualifying has made the most positions, and Callum Voisin's done pretty well, up 2 or 3s in 16th from pretty much the back row of the grid, and also done pretty well is Dunn, who's only 2 positions ahead of him at 14th, and Loke's right in there as well. So that group who's been fighting for the wins for this weekend is all still together in the middle of the teens.
Yeah, and of course Alex Dunn now being the championship leader. Here's a couple of ducks, darts and weaves coming down to Brunto and Nelson. Suter Arau with Sean Rashid going through the middle of shot. That's towards the back end of the top 10 with 9th position as Suter Arau on that Red Bull liveried high-tech Pulsate car come through. I don't think he did, as here is Callum Voisin. Oh, there we go. There is something happening ahead. That must have been... Oh, yeah, Suter Arau's got some damage on the front of his car.
Yeah, Arau must have maybe run into the back of Rashid going through Brundle and Nelson as he looked for a manoeuvre, and that's causing him to back up, and this is causing a lot of issues. That's Loke going wide at the last corner, and Dunn is going to make his way through, and potentially also Voisin, and now Headley is making a way around the outside of Voisin 2.
Yeah, these are basically the top 4 in the championship here, all having a scrap towards the back end of the sort of top 15 as they head their way through the first corner. Morales takes the defensive line as he's trying to hold off from Mackenzie Cresswell. Ayota Iwasaki has actually dropped back behind his teammate Cresswell as well, so it's a position gained for Cresswell. Look at this in the background though. You've got James Headley getting to the outside of Callum Voisin. They're going to go side by side through Palmer. It is the Arden VRD car of Headley to the outside. inside. He's not able to get his way through. Callum Voisin is able to fend off a bit of a weave as well on the exit of the corner, taking a defensive line. Matthew Rees getting back involved. This is chaos.
This is crazy. Great drive from Callum Voisin. He kept it on the inside of Palmer's going through turn 3. You could see the car squirming around, gave Headley just enough room on the outside, but managed to pull ahead at the exit of the corner. Now Headley's under pressure from his teammate as we see Rees defending from Kuharczyk and Taparis.
Yeah, Kuharczyk, who's again worked his way forward, dropped back a little bit, but we've seen a great move from him going down into bomb hole on the exit of Nelson, and we know he's quite quick. Maybe he was a little bit, hurt after the disqualification from the previous race after that move on Callum Voisin. Currently, he's not been able to keep up with Callum Voisin's charge up the order. Joseph Lokes looking fantastic at the moment in that JHR Developments car. We're seeing Mike Epps walking around the paddock area a bit earlier on, of course, his driver coach for the season, and to be fair, seemed fairly upbeat despite some of the issues for Loke in the previous race.
Yeah, upbeat because he knows that the drivers are driving well, apart from that small mistake from Loke in the previous race. They've been doing really well. And that is that Voisin going wide. That was Voisin going wide on the transition between Coram and Murray's, but just a reason, that previous lap, a reason why we love the race so much.
Oh, Mavliatov's had an issue. Mavliatov, our race leader, has had an issue as Kuharczyk's going to get to the outside of Matthew Rees. I think, actually, I'm going to correct myself, I think it's just timing.
Yes, it is.
Outside. Oh, no! My goodness, Kuharczyk's now been sent around. I think that might have been solo. Is he going to hit a barrier? No, because there's about 1,000 miles of runoff on the exit of T1, and he is thanking his lucky stars that tyre barrier didn't extend too much further. I get the feeling there wasn't any contact. I think that was just marbles.
Yeah, I'd love to see a replay of that one if we can get it, but yeah, Kuharczyk just going around the outside doing almost exactly the same as what Loke did in the previous race, but going a long way further off. Wow, he's been through the field.
That is quite
someone's gonna clip that. That is an excellent shot. Unfortunately, not great for Timek himself, who's had a struggling or a difficult couple of races after getting that penalty from race 2 after coming together with Callum Voisin and now having to make his way through the fields that is just on the exit of turn 1 and collecting quite a lot of it on his way through.
Honestly, Kuharczyk's pace this season it's really impressed me. I mean, he was one of the drivers in that first ever qualifying session at Alton Park when we went and stood on the exit of turn 1 and going down towards Cascades and that lot. He was on throttle the absolute latest, way later than anyone else. He was higher in the rev range than everyone else. He was so committed and so fast.
So Kuharczyk going around the outside of Rees. It doesn't look like, again, there was any contact as far as we could see. Almost a mirror image of what happened to Rees's teammate Loke in the previous race. It's just so hard because the GTs, the British GT Championship, are here this weekend. They've had an hour race between, they've had an hour race this afternoon. So much of that Pirelli rubber goes down on the circuit that you're really grippy online, but then offline, there's all the marbles, and your grip is almost halved when you just run a bit wide, especially at a one-line corner like Rich's at turn 1.
Marvellous exploration there, Piers. Sorry, everyone, as Christodoulou and Stewart. Whoa. Oh my goodness me, Stewart going a little slow through the corner because he's trying to stop that cutback going up and under. Nico Christodoulou trying to make his way through, has the fastest lap of the race as that's Kuharczyk getting out of the way. Of course, car's overheating. He's just trying to get back to the pit lane at the moment. He's trying to save the car, but thankfully he is getting out of the way, making sure that everyone can come through and continue on the race without getting too much in the way. Well, it might cause a double yellow down there, so we might not see any moves going down to Brundle Nelson.
Should be okay because I think there's a cut through where they can put the car in a safe position fairly quickly, so hopefully we can get that dealt with under just wave yellows, and you can see some of those pieces of crops laying on the circuit. But the fight down the field still continues as our championship challengers Alex Dunn and Callum Voisin are now, actually all three of them, it's Loke, Dunn and then Voisin with Headley right behind. The top four in the championship are pretty much nose to tail.
And Mavliatov's pulled out over a second now. We were saying that he actually put in a good drive. I know obviously there's a lot of safety cars back in Alton Park when he took that victory, but he didn't put a foot wrong in difficult conditions. We're seeing this again now. Mavliatov is actually looking really good in that hill speed car, having a second lead and looking to continue the thing that we've got in GB3. We've only had in the opening 12 races, or opening 11 races, we've only had 6 winners, which was counted to last year. We had a lot of different winners last year, but he's just 6 so far in 2023. If Mavliatov can do that, it stays at 6. He would not be a new winner.
Yes, of course, so it still remain at 6, but he's doing a good job at the front. We've seen he can win reverse grid races. Of course, last time he won a reverse grid race, he had the help of a safety car, and so far he doesn't need that because he's pulling away from Rojon. Again, it looks like Mavliatov has disappeared on the timing screen, but he will reappear in just a moment when he gets reinstated at the front of the field because he's definitely still circulating.
Whoa,
Waberski. And now a move up the inside.
Oh my goodness, that was a bit defensive there from Morales as he was trying to hang on from Mackenzie Cresswell, but was that a touch too defensive? Did he squeeze Cresswell Cresswell off a little bit too much. That's the feeling that I've got.
Yeah, just, I mean, it'd be great if we can get replay, but if not, it did look like he just squeezed Cresswell, or Morales squeezed Cresswell just a bit too hard there. Cresswell had already got an overlap, and you can see the damage to Cresswell's front wing. Good driving from Cresswell, actually, because he did put on the rain light to alert the drivers behind that he will be going slowly, but it looks like Morales has stalled and can't.
He's getting back going.
I was about to say he can't pull away, but he can, so hopefully he can limp back to the pits. Yeah, there's the hobbled car of Cresswell. He's going to struggle to stay on the circuit, and there he goes.
I agree. Heads up driving to stick the rain light on to basically be like, yeah, I'm in trouble, people. He might swallow the front wing here a little bit if he's not careful. Kind of wants it just to get out from under the car. This is where it gets a little sketchy, because if it goes under the floor, it can lift the front wheels off and then you just lose steering completely.
Yeah, you can see the car understeering horrendously there, and he'll be able to hear that in the car, like it's scraping under the ground, but you can't see that at all. Here we go. So Weberski goes wide, completely unrelated to... it was actually an error on the exit of the first corner from Morales, and he went to defend that, but Cresswell had already completely committed, had an overlap, so as much as Morales probably is largely at fault, I think in that instance, I can understand the situation because it all happened so fast.
Yeah, I mean, the run from Riches down towards the Wilson hairpin is not very long at all, and it's you instinctively come off the corner and instantly pull right to take that defensive line. It was a little bit too far. I mean, again, if it's me, because Morales has gone down the order, although I know Cresswell's had that issue.
He's almost served his penalty already.
It's literally what I was about to say. Is that I think he's already you're a victim of what you've done yourself. So unfortunately there for David Morales dropping down the order. It might not be a retirement, but he's not scoring any points in this race. I can tell you that right now. These drivers though are scoring points, and they're scoring big points in the championship. They're struggling to make their way up the order particularly quickly. Joseph Loke being the only one in that top 4 in the championship to be inside the top 10 at the moment, but he is followed by his rivals, by Dunn, by Voisin, by Headley, who is an outside chance for the championship after the pace he's shown this weekend.
Absolutely.
Is there an issue for Reese? Is there a puncture or something on Reese's car? Reese is going very slow here. The number 5 car in the middle of the...
Oh, it's smoking. That might be an engine issue potentially. No, he's still defending. Maybe he dropped a wheel off somewhere.
It's very odd.
Something's not quite right with that car.
Yeah,
Sorry, I spoke over you, Lewis. Say that again.
No, I think you're absolutely right. There is something wrong.
Yeah, he's dropped off. Is he still going slow? No, it looks like he's picked up again. Maybe he just dropped a wheel on the exit of Palmer's that we didn't see. Potentially just had some dirt on his tyres. I don't know. We'll keep you informed with that as we get it. But just a reminder, points for race 3 are there is Mackenzie Cresswell, who's disappointed, of course. I don't think the blame in that incident lies his way. Of course, that's only from what the view we've seen. The stewards and the race director will have a look at that from all of the respective angles and make a far better judge decision. It looks like Matthew Rees, the car we're looking at now, is keeping up to speed. He's pulling away from Snetterton somewhat, so maybe it was only a short-lived issue, or potentially it was just a small mistake on his part. I don't know. We didn't see it on camera.
Whoa!
He's still pushing hard, though. You can see that car moving around. But at the front of the field, Mavliatov still with just about a 1.1 second gap over Rojan and Staiko in the top 3.
I think that Matthew Rees is definitely one that you need to catch up with. Look at this from Alex Dunn, though, who's sending one down the inside of Joseph Loke in the first corner. Loke's out wide. He made a mistake there in the previous race. That's left Alex Dunn vulnerable to Callum Voisin in that 35 Roden car in the top 3 in the championship, putting on a bit of a show here with just 6 laps left to go in the Snetterton racing weekend. Alex Dunn taking a defensive line coming up towards Palmer's. Callum Voisin is unable to make his way through. This is getting juicy.
Look who's getting involved. That is James Headley as well. Headley is now looking up the inside of Voisin. Voisin could lose 1 or 2 places here potentially, and that all stemmed from, oh my God, around the outside of Agostini. Can he get it?
Oh,
what a move!
Goodness.
Oh my goodness, what a move!
That was absolutely sensational. Neither of us believed that he was going to be able to make his way around the outside of Alex Dunn there. I have not seen many moves around the outside of Agostini. That is one of the best from Callum Voisin.
Wow, I was mid-train of thought talking away, as you all saw, because I thought, oh, well, this is just going to go on. He's going to cut back, and nope, straight around the outside. He's already pulling out. Here we go again. So I was there thinking that Headley was going to get up the inside of Voisin, but no, Voisin braked nice and late, got ahead, critically got ahead in the middle of the corner to command the road on the exit away from Dunn, and good driving from Dunn. He could have opened the steering just like we saw Kuharczyk do to Voisin in the previous race, but no, gave him racing room, and this is exactly the fighting we want to see between the championship challengers at this halfway stage of the season, because it's going to be a barnstorming championship battle for the remainder of the year.
I am loving this. No, I mean, I said that anyone who's heard my commentary in sim race knows I absolutely despise it when people just open the steering and push someone straight off the circuit. here. So huge respect to Alex Dunn for not, and a huge respect for Callum Voisin for sending it in and trusting that Alex Dunn was. And that was a beautiful textbook racing from these two, setting an absolute example as to how this level of racing is, to the quality of the GB3 Championship.
Just seen something on one of the digi flags, a black and white warning for Reese, number 5. He's clearly been using all of the track and a little bit more. We mentioned in the pre-show those track limit sensors, so he's going to have to be careful to not leave the track any more times, otherwise he will be getting a penalty, potentially a 5 second, starting with a 5 seconds, and if he does it multiple times it increases exponentially. But I was about to say, Lewis, Callum Voisin, having been released from the back of Dunn, is pulling away and is now beginning to apply some pressure onto the back of Joseph Loke, and it would be an amazing race and comeback from Callum Voisin if he could get past not only his main championship rival in the likes of Dunn, but also another one of his rivals in Loke as well, because not only does he gain the extra points for the extra positions, but he almost doubles that advantage, because you get in race number 3 an extra point for every position you gain from your starting place.
Oh, here we go. We've got a defence here. Ollie Stewart, Nico Christodoulou. This is the battle for 7th position. Christodoulou, who had previously had the fastest lap of the race, is now charging. Who actually has the fastest lap of the race? It's someone further down the order. It is Suta Arau after his early issue. So they're just going for the fastest lap, going for the glory.
Yeah, Suta Arau has obviously pitted to fix that damage that he had, I believe, on the back of Rashid. I think Rashid has he left the race? Rashid, where is Rashid? Yeah, Rashid has come in as well, because he's now behind Suta Arau. So there was clearly contact between those two in the Brundle and Nelson section we just didn't quite catch. But yeah, I was just saying, we were just talking about Voisin doing excellently. Clearly, Carlin had done an excellent job with that car as well, because it was, of course, quite heavily hobbled after that issue in race number 2. But it's right back up to top running pace now, because he is probably the fastest driver in this group. Whoa! Oh, Costa de Paris for the 2nd time today, taking a trip through the gravel on the exit, or sort of gravelly dirt on the exit of the first corner, and now having to defend from Pearson as well, as his tyres are covered in dirt.
You were so shocked you nearly called him Costa Caparis, but thankfully you rescued it. It's all right.
Thanks,
as we'll see if he can make his way back into it. But yeah, when you go out of that white, it's so dusty, it's so tricky out there. Like you say, it can spin you around very easily. It's what we saw with Joseph Loke. It's what we saw obviously with Kuharczyk. It's such an easy mistake through Riches, through turn 1. It's very much, at the moment, it's very much a one-line corner. If you're off that line, see ya.
Very, very tricky, that Riches corner. It's completely committed. It's probably one of the fastest corners and most, I know, on the limit corners in British motorsport, because you arrive there so fast, over 140, maybe even 145 miles an hour in a race trim with a bit of toe in these cars, and the apex speed is barely even much less than that. As we see a move at the inside, that was
still Christodoulou not able to get past.
Yeah, but it's a good defensive manoeuvre there. It was almost like an overtake from behind for Stewart into Brundle, which held that place, and I think Christodoulou is probably getting a bit impatient behind Stewart now, because he's definitely got the pace.
But what is the pace difference? So obviously we're looking at this fight. It's between Stewart, Christodoulou and Taylor. They're setting higher 42s at the moment. I was wondering if Loke and Voisin were going to be closing in. They're not really. That gap's kind of remaining, despite them being higher up in the championship. I know they've been working their way through, but Loke, Voisin, Dunn, they're not closing in. As the defensive line coming here from Loke, coming into Riches. Callum Voisin's going to try the up and under. That's a little bit wide there from Joseph Loke. This should work quite nicely with the number 35. He's got to the inside. The defensive line not being able to be taken, as it's deep into the brakes though from Callum Voisin. Is it too deep? The answer is yes. He's not going to gain his position on Loke, and the 84 is able to hang on. That was well read.
Oh, that was I was giving the move, the up and under at turn 1, the chef's kiss for Callum Voisin, but unfortunately just braked a little bit too late, and it's good awareness from Joseph Loke to just ease off the brakes, let Callum Voisin, who you can clearly see it brake quite late, just cut in front of him, mind the front wing, and then get a good drive out of the corner to hold that position, because, Loke did well to defend at turn 1, but then just ran a slightly wide. It was great positioning from Callum Voisin, but unfortunately the move was not done down into Wilson.
No, but
for Voisin, of course.
But yeah, I was going to say, but it was great driving. Joining in this fight is Noah Ping, who's, considering that it's the top 4 in the championship that he's fighting with here, you kind of maybe think, oh, Noah Ping, yeah, he's out of position, he's not a part of it. I was talking to Gordy Much over in the Sparko bit a bit earlier on. Obviously, he's had a fair amount of driving, he's done some coaching and stuff, he's done sim racing, he's all round a good lad. He was saying, where has Noah Ping come from? Because he's been from basically from the back. This weekend, completely different driver. And the fact that even in this race, he's able to keep up with the positions that's being made with those top 4 in the championship. Oh my goodness me, Ollie Stewart, that was a big moment. That was a great catch though. Once again, slipping and sliding through that final corner, going through Coram. Wow, that was, surely he's going to lose the position soon. Christodoulou's got to get through.
The pressure mounted on Stewart by Christodoulou is intense, and he's not relenting either. And Christodoulou's actually looking up the inside, nearly in the pit exit, not quite, but this could leave Christodoulou vulnerable from the driver behind, which is the CDR car there of Taylor. That's a great move from Taylor. He saw that coming. And then has actually managed to get out the inside. Oh, there's going to be nearly contact in the middle of the wheels and hairpin. They're going to come out side by side. No, not quite getting the move done, but good opportunistic driving from Taylor. And we see in the background that they're not done in the fight for what positions are those? That is 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th of our championship rivals.
Yeah, again, like you say, all the positions is gaining extra points, not just for the position itself, but for the positions gained as well. We're on the penultimate lap of this race. There is just one more afterwards, and Mavliatov is gone. 2.5 seconds clear of Rojon, then Staiko, Waberski and Piers in the top 5, then we get Iwasaki, then it's Stewart, Christodoulou and Taylor, that fight that we've been looking at, and then we get to this fight, the top lot in the championship. They've moved their way up the order from the back. It is Loke ahead of Voisin, Dunn and then Headley. The important thing for there is that the championship leader in all of that is Alex Dunn. He is 12th. Now not only has he gained the least positions, he's also scoring the least points in this race comparatively, so it could be big for the championship. Nico Christodoulou trying to get to the outside and go for the move. Once again, he gives it a go, doesn't do it, locks up quite heavily as well.
Wow, that's clearly very, very late on the brakes from Oliver Stewart, because Christodoulou was pretty much side by side heading into the braking zone, and yes, Stewart had the inside line, so a slightly shorter distance, but normally the driver on the outside can sort of dictate a bit the entry into Nelson, but no, not this time, as we see Voisin having a look at the last corner, not quite doing it there, but is now very close as we see a big slide out of the last corner. Oh, Headley's gone wide, that as does Reese, so those drivers just struggling a bit on the tyres, and now we're seeing a bit of a weave from Joseph Loke to try and break the toe, but Voisin has now got a good exit on the outside. We're going to go side by side. Is he going to go for the cutback once again?
Goodness.
I think Loke's just slowed it up a little bit on the entry to wrong foot. Whoa, to wrong foot Voisin. In the background, I held my breath for a second as I thought we were going to see our championship leader, Alex Dunn, fire himself off into the weeds as we saw Kuharczyk did earlier, but managed to just about hold it together. So after all that, no change.
No change. This happens all the time. It just goes from like, oh, it's kind of calm, to wow, it's going really great, and nothing's happened. It's like, it's wild. That is, honestly, it's so amazing to see these top lot all racing. I love the fact that they're all racing really close together. They've all come up through the order, and they're not really going to gain any extra positions, but they're all fighting as hard as they can because they know these points matter. This is the end of the first half of the season.
Yeah, you definitely want to be in the strongest position possible at the midpoint. It's kind of like a junction in the season, because if you're in the championship point at halfway, you know that you're in it for the long haul. Let's just put our attention back to Noah Ping, because we were talking about him before that battle between Stewart and Christodoulou. Ping, it shows how much difference a good qualifying can make to your weekend.
Big time. Oh, Callum Voisin straight down the inside of Joseph Loke. This could be a massive move for Callum Voisin. The Rodin. Carlin's got to the inside going into Brundle and Nelson, and still cannot make the move. The defensive line being taken from Joseph Loke. They head through Bombhole. This is the last lap of the race, now into Coram, and at the moment Joseph Loke's able to hang on. Alex Dunn's back inside the fight, but as we end the first half of the championship, it's Daniel Mavliatov taking yet another victory, his second in the GB3 championship, partnered by the BRDC. Arthur Rojon comes across the line in second, then Staiko, and then all of this fight behind. It is going to be Stewart hanging on from Christodoulou and Taylor, and it is going to be Joseph Loke hanging on from Callum Voisin, Alex Dunn and James Headley in that fight for the championship. It has been an excellent round here in Snetterton, and Mavliatov back on top. This one will feel much more earned than it was in Alton Park. There were doubters, but he put on a good display then. He's put on a great display today.
Oh, what a great drive from Daniel Mavliatov. Pretty much got the perfect launch, drove away from the rest of the field. So he's driven an excellent race. Congratulations for him. And it would be great to see Rojon and Staiko on the podium once again. But I must say, I have to take my hat off to the whole group of the championship fight. That was that 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th group, because the racing was so close to so much of the race. We saw drivers going inside, outside, But every single time there was a manoeuvre, everyone gave each other just enough room. It was hard racing, but it was fair racing. And this is what we love to see. Like, we're racing fans. If you're watching this, you're probably a racing fan, and we're fans of the GB3 Championship, and that is why we watch it, and it's what we want to see for the rest of the season. And it was good to see that the fight between the championship contenders as well, but I think Callum Voisin put on a great show there. It was great defensive drive also from Joseph Loke.
Yep, certainly so. Well, Mavliatov then, of course, provisionally our race winner, Rojon behind, then Lucas Styko in third position before we get to Waberski and then Pearson rounding out the top 5. Ayota Iwasaki in sixth position with Oliver Stewart, then Christodoulou and Taylor, that great battle for seventh position. Joseph Loke rounding out the top 10 and, of course, scoring decent points in the Championship Challenge. Behind all of that in 11th position, Callum Voisin will be. Alex Dunn and James Headley, again, those 4 drivers 10th through 13th, that is who we're looking at on the championship side of things. Obviously, Noah Ping was sat behind Headley. Maybe he didn't want to get too involved, maybe he didn't have the pace to get too involved, but it's been a big weekend for Arden VRD and for Noah Ping. Obviously, a race victory in the previous one, 14th in this. The rest of them filter their way through, and the retirements from the race, Mackenzie Cresswell and Timek Kuharczyk. Sean Rashid finishing a lap down after early issues. Into Parc Ferme they go, and Mavliatov will climb out for his second podium in the championship, but of course it's his second win as well. It was a brilliant drive. He didn't put a foot wrong, got a good start to the race, and then had great pace to pull away from Rojon and Styko. Rojon's not seemed to have the pace that we saw from the earlier stages of the season when we saw him at Alton Park, but still, we know he's a fast driver. So for Mavliatov to beat him in all of that, it is great. Also, his pace comparatively to those in the higher up of the championship was still great. His fastest lap was a 42.5. Joseph Lokes, for example, was a 42.9. It was a well-deserved victory. And again, I said it in the previous race, as much as we've only had 6 winners in 2023, everyone, I genuinely feel that pretty much everyone on this grid can absolutely win a race. Winning the championship's a different order, but winning races, I have no doubt. It is such a strong field. We saw it from Noah Ping. He won a reverse grid race at Silverstone and now has won a race from a qualified position. Maybe Mavliatov isn't a million miles away from that. I know some of the qualifying pace has been a bit of a struggle for Mavliatov, but clearly in the race, he absolutely has it. There was a little bit of a look at the the Douglas Motorsports car of Styko, also Arthur Rojon for Chris Dittman Racing. Hill speed, though, over with Mavliatov. They did have a race win last year. Obviously, Nick Gilks took that one in the final stages, in the final race of the year. And of course, Mavliatov taking his second. So in only a few months, Hillspeed have taken 3 victories, as we'll catch up with Mavliatov with Jon Jackson, who's down in Parc Ferme.
Yeah, thank you, Lewis. We're just seeing Daniel just celebrating with the team. You know, Hillspeed needed a bit of success, something to pump them up after maybe some tricky results, and that's certainly what's going on here. I'm going to have to spoil the party, though, and say congratulations. It's fine, I've got to spoil the party, I'm so sorry. We've been here before, a great race for you, and I mean, how was it out there for you?
I mean, for me, it was pretty good. I got a decent start. Yeah, sort of stayed in P1 until end of lap 2. Yeah. And I knew end of lap 2, that's it. The positions are set. So I think, yeah, I sort of, once I got a decent gap behind me, I just managed it. Yeah, didn't overpush, trying not to make mistakes.
I was going to say, it still tests your focus, though, being out there, and you know, you've still got to finish that race. So as I know, the position was kind of set. You know, you were certainly doing well. I mean, one small mistake and that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I was worried of just making a mistake, maybe losing a few seconds of the gap that I built up. So yeah, I think, yeah, I sort of drove without making mistakes, and yeah, kept the back once I pulled out.
Great, and a really positive end to the weekend for the Hillspeed team as well.
Oh yeah, it was positive after, yeah, sort of struggling with the other 2 races. Yeah, it was a good finish to the weekend.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. We'll let you continue celebrating with the team. Daniel Mavliatov, your winner with Hillspeed. Chris Dittman Racing, second place. Arthur Rojon. How was that race out there for you?
It was a good race. We managed to keep the second place, but a bit frustrated to don't win the race. But Mavliatov has good speed, but we are happy. We are happy with the result.
Yeah, very, very solid result. I guess you're waiting for him to maybe make a mistake so that you can, you know, take over and get that race win, but it just didn't happen because he was so solid.
Yeah, the first few laps he did some mistake, but I I don't have the speed to overtake him, but at the end he was really fast and solid, and yeah. So
I was going to say, I'll be very, very happy.
Yeah.
A great end to the weekend for the team as well.
Yeah, with the podium, second podium of the year for us. It was better race because the speed was close to the top guy.
Yep.
So we are happy.
Excellent. Well, we'll let you go and get your trophy in just a second. After Rojon there with Chris Dittman racing, I'm now looking. Okay, we're going to come all the way over here. I know they've got to get to the podium very, very quickly. Mr. Styko, hello, can I have a quick chat with you? Congratulations on the podium. How was it out there for you?
It was a tricky race. Like after the start, you don't have a lot to do on this track. It's very difficult to overtake. So after the start was managing the tires to not destroy them, and then had a decent pace to finish P3.
And a great way to end the weekend going into the next round at Silverstone.
Yeah, it was quite a tricky weekend. And first day tests we were consistent at the top 10, but after my crash I never found the pace back, so it's good to finish the weekend with a P3.
Very, very positive time here at Snetterton. Thank you very much for chatting to me. I'll let you go to the podium. Congratulations to our Brazilian driver there, Lucas Styko. With Douglas Motorsport, they're going to head straight over to the podium there. You can see Gemma from Douglas Motorsport celebrating there. One day I will get her on camera. She walks away into the distance there. She promises me she won't, but one day it will happen. Lewis McGlade will talk you through the podium ceremony.
Certainly will. And for one of the drivers on there, it's the first podium. Lucas Styko yet to get onto the podium. Did have a top 5 earlier on in the earlier on in the season, as if it was a long time ago. It was a few weeks ago. We went racing at Spa in that reverse grid race. Finished in 5th position in that. But yes, no podiums to his name. So for Lucas Styko, a bit of a turnaround weekend. Finished 22nd and 19th, which isn't great from race 1 and race 2. But again, it shows the quality of the field. He still comfortably was able to finish on the podium. He'll be the first one to come up, and finishing in 3rd position. It'll be his first trophy, which again is one of those ones that gets cherished that little bit more. Arthur Rojon has had a trophy before. That was finishing in 3rd position in Silverstone, so he gets a second one onto the books. The up and down season at the moment for Arthur Rojon. He finds himself way down in the championship, 24th. But still, again, results like this can start to turn things around for you. Daniel Mavliatov, his 2nd race victory of the season. He had a race win back in Alton Park and has a race win here as well. Again, we know he's quick, we know he's got pace, we know he's got that consistency. Just needs to find that little bit extra speed in qualifying, and maybe we can see him picking up some top 10s. But then, to be fair, you can say that for every other driver on the grid. We'll take a look, though, at highlights from the race. Highlights from round 12 of the GB4 GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Daniel Mavliatov starting from pole position and leading his way down into the first corner. Styko on the attack early doors, trying to get to the inside heading into that first corner, and Waberski was the one dropped back to 4th position. Gerard Shea and John Bennett going side by side through the first corner before Bennett had a couple of issues on the lap. Bit of a lock up there from Mavliatov. It nearly opened the door for an overtake for the race lead, but unfortunately Rojon was not able to find anything as Mavliatov in that hill speed car would start to pull away. Kuharczyk would try and go around the outside of Matthew Rees before losing the rear end on the marbles on the exit of Riches and was sent down the escape road. Waberski went wide, and then there was this contact, a bit of a defensive move being made from David Morales, and Mackenzie Cresswell was into the side of him, the pair of them going down the order and basically out of the race. Alex Dunn taking a look to the inside of Joseph Lowe as they were battling for the final position inside the top 10, but it was the top 4 in the championship all in this heated battle. This one of the best moves we've seen all weekend. Callum Voisin to the outside of Agostini. Beautiful space being given between Voisin and Dunn, and beautiful racing between the pair of them as Voisin would move up to 11th. He would try to get into 10th position by making some moves late on to get past Joseph Lowe, but Loke's defensive driving was absolutely fantastic. He was able to hold off his championship rival and outscore him, and it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter in the championship race. For the second time though this season, it was Daniel Mavliatov through the final corner to take a victory ahead of Arthur Rojon and Lucas Styko. A brilliant drive it was. We'll head down though into the paddock area where Piers Pryor is catching up with our drivers.
We're down here getting some of the post-race reaction, and we've managed to grab one of the drivers we were looking at a lot of the race. Oliver Stewart, you were soaking up a lot of pressure from Nico Christodoulou there.
Yeah, that's the most pressure I've ever had in a race, to be honest. When I went in the air in race 2 from a bit of contact with John Bennett, it was a bit of a racing incident. It wasn't his fault nor mine, but I went flying in the air, flat spot the tyres, so from lap 1 I was sliding about everywhere. So I just had to fire as much speed into every corner to keep him behind. So it was really difficult. We did our best, and fortunately we stayed on top. It was really happy to race with him because it was really clean, really fair, but really hard. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some good battles in the future.
There was a lot of clean and fair racing, and we said in the comments box, not only your fight, but also the championship fight that was right behind you as well. But it looked like a couple of times you almost got past you, Nico, and then you managed to get through just on the brakes.
Yeah, I made a mistake into Williams. I short shifted into 5th, so I was sitting there in the car and I was like, oh no, he's got momentum here. And he got alongside me, actually passed me. But then I was able to stay so close to him that the side draft brought me back into it. So I just rolled as much speed in and I just got it stopped, and he locked a wheel. And yeah, it was really close, so close to a couple of front wings going flying in the air. But yeah, no, really good.
Good racing and a good result as well for you both. Happy with that as a reverse grid for you?
Yeah, absolutely. From the start of the weekend, we were a little bit disappointed with qualifying. We had really good pace in the car and myself, but we didn't quite put it all together in qualifying, so to start from 15th isn't quite where we wanted. However, the results and the way we raced was really good. Obviously, race 2 had been shortened, but that was no one's fault. But yeah, it was overall a good weekend, positive, and we can take the positives from this and bring it to Silverstone in 6 weeks' time.
Yes, exactly. Silverstone 6 weeks' time. This is now the halfway point. Thanks for chatting to us, Oliver. We'll grab our Sunoco fastest driver of the weekend, and I believe championship leader still. That was a tough fight, and we were loving it in the comments box. I think the people at home were loving it as well, because it was all 4 of the championship contenders nose to tail for pretty much the whole race. Just put us in the cockpit. What was that like?
Yeah, I think I made a really good start this time. Kind of got my head around the starts now for race 3, which is good. And then managed to get past Callum and Joseph on lap 1, which is obviously good for the championship. And then I think about midpoint of the race, I think my teammate Sauter broke his front wing and then pretty much parked it in the middle of the last corner, and I had nowhere to go, and that's how Joseph got past. And then I think Joseph and I were kind of battling for pretty much the whole race. And then I tried to move, which kind of put me into the gearbox of Callum, and then that's how he got past as well. So, I think I tried my best to keep him behind, but I had to leave him enough space when he went around the outside as well. So I think a little bit disappointed, but I think to have a weekend that I would say probably wasn't great by my standards, to still come out with a championship lead is pretty good.
It must be a good feeling to be at what is now the halfway point in the season in the lead of the championship. That's got to be something that you were aiming for maybe at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think definitely, if anything, after Silverstone, I think we were really far behind Joseph in the lead, so I thought, okay, this is going to be pretty difficult. And then I think if you told me 2 rounds later I was going to be leading, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So yeah, it's a good way. I think we've turned it around pretty well.
Yeah, and also you just mentioned there, hard racing but fair racing. That's something I think that we were really enjoying, again, watching the stream. You can watch it back later on. It's well worth watching, because also the battle in front of you with Oliver Stewart as well was pretty good. But it was really hard, like there was a lot of fighting going on, but everyone always left just enough space. It looked like really respectful racing, and that's what we're kind of hoping to, always what we've come to expect from GB3. Do you think it'll stay that way for the rest of the year? I hope it does.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it was good racing. I did enjoy it. I think Callum managed to get around my outside, and I think as much as I would have liked to have tried to keep him behind, it's better to lose 1 or 2 points than for both of us to take no points. So I just tried to leave as much room as possible and stay calm and just keep on getting the consistent results.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for chatting to us, Alex. I think we've got one more driver. I think that is Edward Pearson. I think we'll grab next. Edward, jump on in here. We'll just let you put your stuff down. Edward, great to chat to you. We haven't had a chance to catch up with you this weekend so far. It's been a bit of a difficult weekend for the Fortec team, but that's a good way to round up the weekend, I suppose, in luck with quite a good fight.
Yeah, no, it was a tough weekend, but I think the team have learnt a lot. I think Max, I feel really bad for Max because he had a bad quality, of course, not being able to get out and having to start from P25 every time. So, yeah, no, I think it's been hard on the team, but it's nice to have a 4th and 5th to win the weekend.
Yeah, it's a good way to finish off, and this is now the halfway point in the season. We've mentioned it to a couple of the other drivers. Of course, it's your first season in the GB3 Championship. You're learning a lot as you're going along. What is your goals for the second half of the season? Does it change your outlook now? Is it kind of like reset because we've got 6 weeks until Silverstone and then kind of kick on from there?
I think I will have a little bit of a reset, a sort of a break. I've just finished my GCSEs.
That must feel nice.
Yeah, I'm going to chill out a bit, but I think at the same time, I think me and the team are going to work hard. Of course, we want to improve where we have. I think for the first 4 races, we've improved a lot. I mean, at Spa, we made big jumps. We were really fast at Spa. And I think we had pace this weekend. I think my weekend was sort of broken up a bit because I had a GCSE in the middle. so it sort of didn't make it the best weekend. And it also, I'm not a big fan of this circuit, so I struggle a bit. But yeah, no, I think we can progress and hopefully see what we can do in the last 4 races.
Yep. Silverstone next up. We've been there once this season already. Second time there. Does that help things?
Yeah, I think we had a setup issue last time, so hopefully we can. I think we've worked out what we need to do to hopefully go and get some good points there.
Brilliant. Well, we look forward to it. Thanks for chatting to us, Edward. We'll let you head off and celebrate a decent end to the weekend with the rest of your team. John, as I'll bring you in with your friend once again.
Yeah, I'm back with Mark Perry, who we spoke to earlier in the weekend. You know what, we're finishing up here after some great racing, and because you've come over all the way from Vancouver, Canada, I thought we'd just ask, how has your weekend been here? First experience of the GB3 Championship.
Oh, it was incredible, absolutely incredible. The race organizers and management are so professional. This is what we all attain to be, right, as far as a race. So congratulations to everyone. Fantastic, and such a hotly contested race. GB3, incredible.
Oh yeah, so close between all the drivers.
Totally, I mean, but this last race, it was nothing between them. It was incredible. So good driving all around. So
I was going to say, we know you're here obviously with James Headley, and we've talked about how you've been supporting him and just loving watching his journey, but also so many great other drivers here. Now we've got to ask you, we talked before yesterday. We know you're on a little bit of a European road trip. What, you're going to Spain, was it? I can't remember. And then to Silverstone.
I'm leaving to Spain tomorrow, and then I'm back to Silverstone, which is going to be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Amazing. I mean, the big thing is you want to try and watch the Formula One somewhere, but unfortunately, we've been trying to work out where you can watch the F1 in Canada. Obviously, your home Grand Prix here in the Norfolk area, and we've come up with nothing, I'm afraid. So you might have to watch it online or something like that.
I think I'm going to have to watch it online. It's obviously nothing that is within the track, but next year.
That's right. What, you're going to go to Silverstone as well for the British Grand Prix? I've got to ask you, obviously, the question is, our next round is at Silverstone. Are you going to be maybe coming to another GB3 race this season?
I'd love to. Yep, I'd love to. See how the schedule works, but 100% supportive of it.
Amazing.
Well, we've loved having you here. We'll let you go. I know you've got people with you. I've brought the family over for a bit of celebration. In fact, they're in the background, but they won't come on the camera. I mean, Piers, Mark's just said it there. Great racing, and he's come over, I know, to support one driver, but you can't help but sort of pick multiple drivers that you look out for. And that race there were some hairy moments for a few drivers out there, but I mean, once again, great racing. And for Mavlatov to win that race, he's been in that position before at Alton Park. It's it's a reverse grid race, but still a race win. And
he commanded that.
With a team like Hillspeed, who haven't had the best of luck, that completely changes their weekend, doesn't it?
Yeah, Hillspeed have definitely been on the up. Gerard, she had excellent pace, especially at Spa last time out, with a fifth and a fourth, I think, in the first 2 races, and then of course with Daniel Mavlyatov having a strong result in that one. He, yes, of course, had the reverse grid pole position, but perfect start, perfect strategy, drove a flawless race, no safety car help there whatsoever. So he's done a really good job, and great to see that their team are doing well, and they'll kick on from that. But I think that was one of my favourite races I've watched in GB3, full stop, just because there was so much fighting throughout the field, and pretty much all of it was respectful. It was the type of racing we want to see, and I can't wait till we go racing again in 6 weeks at Silverstone, because I think that's going to be even better than last time we were there, because all the drivers have got that much more experience there.
Absolutely. Well, Alex Dunn has at least 6 weeks of being the championship leader to come. The GB3 Championship pauses for a little while. There is one more race this weekend in the GB4 Championship just after 5 p.m, so there's a little bit of a gap now, and we talk about the weather, and Piers has maybe said, John, what are you talking about? The sun's out. You can't not admit that it's a little bit colder now. There's potentially some rain in the air, so it could be quite an interesting race. Tom Mills already been very strong in the wet we've seen over the last couple of years. We'll be back for the GB4 Championship. We'll find out how he and the rest of the field get on just after 5 p.m. here at Snetterton.